Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. At our participant box, very excited that you're all here. Give everyone a couple minutes to join and then we'll get started. All right, everybody. Everyone ready to see what amazing math looks like? I'm so happy that all of you were able to join us today. We're going to start off with just a few housekeeping notes and introduce our wonderful speaker, and then we will get started. So to start, I want to remind everyone, if you'd like to access closed captioning, please just hit the CC button in the bottom tray and then show subtitles, and you'll be able to see those. You can participate and make comments at any time via the chat. You can also submit questions using the Q&A function, and we'll have a dedicated time for Q&A at the end of the webinar to address those hard-hitting questions you guys have. You will also receive a certificate of attendance with your webinar recording via Zoom email afterwards, so just keep a lookout for that. And now let's introduce Dan. So Dan Meyer, in case I'm sure many of you know who that is already, is a former math teacher, currently one of the amazing hosts of the Math Teacher Lounge podcast, along with Bethany Lockhart Johnson, and is the Dean of Research at Desmos, where he explores the future of math, technology, and learning. He has advocated for better math instruction on a number of platforms, including CNN, Good Morning America, and TED.com, had a TED Talk, and has worked with teachers internationally and was named one of Tech and Learning's 30 Leaders of the Future. So he is all about math. He knows what he's doing, and we are very, very excited to have him today. So without further ado, Dan, I will kick it off to you.
Thank you, Shannon. Would you give me back the screen share there, please?
I would love to.
Awesome. Sharing the screen. So good to see you folks on the call. Wow, folks from all over the place. My Swedish colleagues showed up. Hello and welcome, folks all over the US. It's exciting. There is such a need that you folks feel, that I feel all the time, to figure out, what does amazing math look like? How can we promote that in our schools through our teachers, so students feel that math is amazing? And I think more importantly, or just as importantly, that I am amazing, not I, Dan Meyer, but I, the student talking here. I don't think it'll surprise you folks to understand that students don't often feel like math is amazing. Why is that? My feeling is that students oftentimes understand in math, though it's never said out loud this way, students come to think that, well, to be good at math, what I need to do is to turn into a robot. I need to shut down the part of me that knows that these word problems are nonsensical. These problems that ask me to figure out, how I could carry the weight of 65 cantaloupes in the back of my Honda Civic or whatever. Math class oftentimes tells students indirectly, non-verbally, that you've got to shut down your humanity and instead boot up your inner robot, boot up your inner computer. That's one reason why I think students don't often think that math is amazing, because math tells them what you brought to class today is not amazing. What we have in here is amazing. Oftentimes students feel like, well, I got to turn into a grown-up. I got to, math means forgetting childish pursuits and all of their value, and instead becoming more like my teacher, who I don't necessarily want to be like. This reaches a new level of alienation for the student oftentimes, when they feel like they have to adopt the practices and norms of different cultures or races or ethnicities. Math can feel alienating in that way. I've got to become someone else, whereas other subjects oftentimes draw upon those parts of the student's humanity. So what I've brought here today are a couple of video clips, a mathematical experience that I hope will help us think more about what amazing math looks like and how to help teachers make that math amazing in their classes. I plan to learn a lot from you folks. I plan to be inspired by teachers that we support in our curriculum program. I think our curriculum program, which obviously we are very interested in you folks knowing more about, is, I think, just an amazing program, but it is amazing only insofar that it enables teachers to themselves make math amazing. It is only an enabler of good teaching. It is not good teaching itself. But I'll share with you a couple moments of what I think are just amazing moments of amazing math. One of them, here's just a kind of a first shot at this, is that amazing math to me, there's several webinars in this sequence. You'll learn about amazing engagement and amazing focus and amazing tools if you tune into these webinars in sequence. As an overall kind of general statement here, I think that amazing math means what kids are learning about the power of math, yes, and also their own power at the exact same time. And making sure students experience both of those powers is a real challenge for teachers, one that I think our curriculum makes a lot easier, and our coaching and other supports. It means basically saying to students, hey, like, you brought a brain with you to class, and that brain has so many incredible things going on. And as your teacher through this curriculum, we will help that brain grow big and draw on the best parts of computers and robots, and also the best part of you yourself. Here's an example. I just want to offer an example. This one is more of a social example, but I think a really helpful way to start us off here, of a teacher who is highly attentive to both the mathematical needs of the class and the students' needs to feel like they themselves are being seen and valued and taken care of. This is 1 minute long. It's very quick, and it dazzles me. I've watched it maybe 5 times. It happened a couple weeks ago. It's incredible. Just have a look here, and this might help us orient around this idea of amazing math and the power of students and the power of math itself. Check it out right here.
Ooh, can I think for a second? I like how you compared the 4 minutes to 4 minutes, because you can't do like 4 minutes to 2 minutes. Love that. Hey, are you feeling okay? Do you just not want to sit in front? Is that why? Okay, so why don't you take your computer and move back next to Lily, because I need you to be a mathematician today. Okay. Yeah, since you're on strike. Stovall, if you want to sit here, you totally can, or you can move back here so you have some thinking partners. Okay.
I botched the closed captions there. I apologize if you needed those. I'll scrub back through them shortly. But here's what I'd love to ask you folks about this clip is, how did you see the teacher tuned into math, but also students? Both of those seem very important. For lots of teachers and lots of programs, I think students perceive them, whether rightly or wrongly, as very concerned about the math, about the objective on the board, and perhaps not as concerned about the students themselves. So in the chat, I would love to learn a bit from you folks. I'll type the question again. How is this teacher, does this teacher seem concerned about the math and the student both? And just offer some thoughts in there. Choose one of those, choose both of those. I'd be very curious. I'm going to play it again, even with the captions more visible here this time.
Ooh, can I think for a second? I like how you compared the 4 minutes to 4 minutes, because you can't do like 4 minutes to 2 minutes. Love that. Hey, are you feeling okay? Do you just not want to sit in front? Is that why? Okay, so why don't you take your computer and move back next to Lily, because I need you to be a mathematician today. Okay. Yeah, since you're on strike. Stovall, if you want to sit here, you totally can, or you can move back here so you have some thinking partners. Okay.
Apologies about the captions again. I'm struggling. I'm so sorry, but I am just like so dazzled by this teacher's work and your analysis here. Karen, I'm just seeing in the chat here, Karen says like, I'm amazed by how quickly she like moved between these two different registers of focusing on the students and focusing on their social well-being and focusing on the need for mathematical engagement here. This right here is a teacher operating at, I think, just the height of a teacher's power in lots of ways. What we have here, like just notice, like, first of all, the video is only 45 seconds long, 44 seconds long, and you see a teacher make approximately 200,000 individual thoughtful decisions in this one video that's that short. Like right here, I think a lot of the attention in the chat is focused on what's going on with the student whose head is down. But some of you folks have noticed that the teacher, even right here, the way the teacher says, I like how you did this. That's very different than saying, this is a thing that I think is right, or here's what I would do. The teacher is drawing on what students have done and then offering some other kinds of analysis about it. It is not just about what is the contents of my head, the teacher's, it's about what's in your head and how can these two kinds of knowledge commingle and become a stronger form of knowledge. And then like, look right here, just like that, boom. Just with a look there, this teacher has already figured out why that student has disengaged. It'd be very easy, like as a novice teacher, perhaps you can identify here. My first thought here might be like, oh, this student is like being defiant or is struggling with the math perhaps, but this teacher knows the camera is right in front of the kids and kind of a weird new thing and already clocks like what is going on here. I love that. And then offers an alternative and says, hey, I need you to do some math here. Like this is what we're doing here in class, is not letting students off the hook there in any way. And then furthermore, notes that this student right here, that if you want to sit here, that's totally fine, but math is about collaboration. So you can move back here if you need a thinking partner. This right here, like, I don't know, folks, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this for me. I hope you learn loads from folks in the chat as well. Yeah, amazing stuff right here. Let's see here. Yeah, concerned about the students' feelings. Are you feeling okay? Yeah, I love the quotes you folks are calling out. Lee Nataro, hey Lee, talks about how the teacher gets down to the student's level. There's just so much that is verbal and nonverbal here going on. This to me feels like amazing math, where the teacher is very conscious of the power of math and their own power at the same time. So this is an example, as I said, that exists in kind of a more general realm where we're not talking about any specific math, just the power of math and a specific kind of moment with students as well. I'd love to offer you folks how this could look in a specific moment of mathematics where you see a teacher who is very tuned into both the power of math and the power of students as well, who is telling students indirectly, but very loudly indirectly, that to be good here, you do not have to become me. You do not have to become an old person. You do not have to become a robot, that we need you. You do not have to change cultures or adopt different norms. What you have is valuable. And so to do that, I want to offer you just a quick look at the activity, at the context of this particular moment. So what we have here is, let me actually move over here. So this is a look at our curriculum, which lives at grade 6, 7, 8, and Algebra 1. I'll be heading into a unit. This is called Unit 3. This is our unit rates and percentages unit, and one particular lesson here called Welcome to the Robot Factory. And these lessons in the curriculum, this is a core comprehensive curriculum. So these activities are available all throughout the entire year. These are not just like one-off, very splashy supplemental activities that draw on student thinking and help students see their own power. We think that this is a thing that should happen all day, every day, that students are always moving between their own power, the power of math, using those two powers and creating something even greater than the sum of their parts. And so these lessons, they have their learning goals, they have different instructional routines, which make the work of teaching easier. There's standards aligned, standards based. There are practice problems attached to these lessons here. And then there's this actual screens of the lesson, where our team has, I think, very thoughtfully tried to figure out, when you're coming to a lesson that is about, for instance, using unit rates to complete a table of equivalent values, what are kinds of experiences that would draw out of students their own power? Draw out the power that students have brought to the table from outside of math class. More and more, as I work with very young children, AKA my own, I become aware of how the kinds of knowledge that I thought as an algebra teacher was knowledge that you just develop when you hit your 14th year of life in my algebra class, that students have actually been learning that knowledge their entire lives. And even like evolutionarily, they've been learning it for millions of years. Like, for instance, the way that patterns work, that humans are pattern sensing organisms, creatures, or the way like a rate happens, or you can like use your intuitions and spatial ideas, your spatial intelligences, to figure things out even before we tell you how to do that in a table or with X's and Y's. I love that. So what we do here is we just start with things like you can choose your own robot here and how many arms it is, and we give you something to play with first, and through that play, you might notice things like, so 2 arms, there's 1 per side, 3, there's 1 and then 2. It doesn't ask a lot. It doesn't impose much formal mathematics yet. It just says, hey, let's see what you notice here. And so what we're going to do throughout this lesson, what happens is students use unit rates and tables to figure out how to, like in this case, put the right number of fingers on a robot. So I might say like right here, 7, 36, I might say like, I'll just try 10. And here we go. Let's just try this out here. And it at 10, interesting. And so one thing we try to do a lot here is to help students understand the value in their thinking, which means the value in their wrong answers. I hope you'll agree or can see the sense in my saying that students spend the majority of their learning in class wrong. Like they're wrong most of the time. Like there are brief moments of rightness where you get the answer right, but then you're on to another kind of situation where you're learning more and your knowledge has not yet reached kind of formal and correct level yet. And so right here, what we could have done when I said 10 is say, that's wrong. Here, watch a grown-up talk to you about how to get the right answer. And instead, we just said, hey, we're just going to tell you, here is what your answer looks like in the context. I mean, the robot seems sad, as you would be too. Come on, you'd be sad too if you did not have enough fingers on all your arms, your useless little arms now. But we are trying to tell students like, hey, here's info, here's information about what you did. And so I might then say, all right, so there's like I need more. I definitely need more. So I might try like 20 here. Okay, all right, that's working pretty good. I wonder what happens if we do like 200. Like whenever I try some new kind of math thing or go into a new math class, I'm always curious, like what happens to wrong answers? And it looks like in this case, we get too much on this side over here. All these like little fingers fall down there. If I do the right answer, 28, I believe, we should see a pretty happy robot, I suspect. All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to invite you folks to play around with this right here and then share with you a moment from a class in New York City taught by Liz Clark Garvey, who let us film her class. And there was one moment, it's like 2 minutes long, that I think illustrates a teacher, again, sharing the power of math and the power of students themselves, both of them. So in order to get there, what I would do here with you folks is I would click this assign button, and that would help me get you into this lesson. I have a different activity that will, let's see here, a different activity that I'll press assign. This one right here is just an excerpt. It's 3 screens of that particular activity. We're going to focus this in. So what I do here is I press assign and I'll press single session code. I'll make this available for you. Okay, here is a dashboard, and the dashboard is where student thinking happens. It's where I can see student thinking, rather. Student thinking happens all the time in every forums across the dashboard and outside of it. And what I'll do is I'm going to pace you folks. This is where I can, this is the airplane's cockpit for lesson facilitation in Desmos. And I'm going to pace you folks to this first screen, which while you folks are entering in, all it does is ask you, which Nick Cage are you today? Are you happy, carefree Nick Cage? Do you know all of these movies from Nick Cage? I bet I could name probably 7 of 9 of them. Anyway, so your pace there. I'm going to go ahead and again put this up on the screen, and I'm going to put it into the chat. Thanks, Lee, for the ask. If you click on that link right there, that's going to take you straight in. So let's wait for a few people to hop in, and then I'll move us on and do the actual math that we'll be looking at here. Over to you folks. Incredible work from this group. I have so many folks already in. Going to give you folks a few more seconds, 30 more seconds to let me know which cage you are to hop into the activity. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, love these responses. Okay, okay. Who's here? How are you feeling? I love this. I love this. People saying just went for a run, feeling good. Yeah, taking care of yourself, William. Love to see it. Kathleen has a lot to do, but is getting it done. You know, you folks can't see what I'm seeing, so I'll just share with you. Like, I just love this. This gives me right here a view on the teacher side. So I'll paste that link into the chat one more time, and then I'm moving over to show you what's going on here. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Hey, Rita, welcome. Okay, so over here on the summary view here, I can see everyone who has logged in so far. Love it, love it, love it. If there was a question that had a right or wrong answer, this would show me a check mark or an X right here. I'm going to anonymize you folks for right now, although I do love seeing so many folks I know. Oh my gosh, it means so much. Just love the collaboration and the community that we have across even international borders. And now you are all mathematicians from across time, space, geography, race, ethnicity, gender, all the different kinds of varieties of folks who are mathematically brilliant. We got them in that left-hand box there, left-hand column. Check it out. I'm seeing your responses here. And yeah, we got people just like in the zone, excited. Workday's over. So pumped to learn from Dan. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I'm so pumped to learn from you folks. I note all the different people who are talking about spring break either being on or being over or about to be going right here. Let's see here. Yeah. So I can click on those and present them. This is super helpful when I just want to share common themes from student responses, either mathematically or socially or whatever else. Here are spring break stuff. Which of these three people is most excited right now? You know, they're all about spring break, but there's some interesting contrasts. So I could using this snapshot tool, I can put this in front of the class and host a conversation that way. I can save this album for later, which is one thing I can do. Is this album is now tucked away under the snapshots tab right here. I can toss that up at the end of an icebreaker or whatever else. Let's see here. Megan's sitting seaside. I would not care to wager which country's seaside Megan is sitting next to. Global traveler Megan, good to see you on the call. Right here, I just want to look at this. I got, wow, focused is winning the game here. People are feeling focused. I love to see it. And happy and relaxed is close second and third. Oh, you know, teachers are in a good spot with spring break coming up. And then straight shot, little bumpy, little low, but pretty straight to Memorial Day. And then we are out for some real rest. Man, awesome. Okay, so here is the job right here. What I'm gonna ask you folks to do is to, this is an activity in the middle of the robot factory lesson. So activity 1 goes from screens 2 through 6. And I saw something, or 2 through 5, and I saw something so interesting happening on screen 8 in this one teacher's class, Liz Clark Garvey, where she helps students see their power and the power of math simultaneously. A beautiful moment that students need much more of. And so in this lesson, in these 3 screens, which are all you're doing, is you are going to choose the color of your robot, first of all, and then you've got to paint robots. So before you attached fingers to the robots. Whoops, let's see here. Yeah, now you're going to paint the robots. So you're going to paint them using a table. So right here, if 6 robots require 2 gallons of paint, how many gallons would 15 robots take? See if you can paint a few batches of robots to get your sense of what is the relationship between paint and robots. And then this is the last screen of it. Write instructions for how you could determine the amount of paint needed for any robots. So we find there's so much value, obviously, in numbers, but numbers oftentimes an exclusive reliance on finding correct numbers gives students this perception that being amazing in math or experiencing amazing math is about turning yourself into a robot. So we love having these periodic questions, which are text response questions, because text is where we allow students to oftentimes be students and to reveal more about their own power. 3 screens, that's all you got. I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes to hit, now less than that, probably like 3 minutes, 1 minute per screen. You folks don't need to perseverate or think super hard about which color, go from your gut here. Which color do you like most? And then spend a good chunk of time, maybe a minute each on these 2 screens. Would love to see some interesting instructions from you folks. Okay, so now I'm going to pace you folks to these 3 screens. I press the pacing button here, and then you're off. I'll see you folks in about 3 minutes, probably less. I will miss you. Thirty more seconds. You can check me out over here. If you're done, you can check out the 3 responses you saw. Let's see here. Or watch me work and think about my next response here. Pausing you folks in about 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and 0. And here's where I press the pause button. And here's where I would say in a class, go ahead and put your laptops down to a 45-degree angle, or Pac-Man your laptops, if that reference catches for anybody. Close your laptop to a fist. All the different ways that we've seen teachers try to create a multimedia classroom that is not just digital kids on computers all day, that is not just teachers and humans, but is the best combination of both. What I was doing back there was looking for 2 ways of thinking about this. A lot of times, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, students think that you got to become a robot, to be amazing in math, doing things not just correctly, but correct in the right way. What's valuable about our curriculum is that it invites different kinds of approaches and surfaces those to other students through those 3 responses you saw, and also surfaces them through the teacher as well. So right here, what I did is I looked for 2 responses here. First of all, I love this response right here. And by highlighting this response right here, the trick is to buy more than you need. You won't miss any. I love that right there. Who are you? Who's the guy into it? Yeah, thanks, Guy. We'll see you around at next conference. Buy you one off this right here. So yeah, this is me trying to demonstrate to students that, hey, not just about this life. Like, you can respond in ways that are really just human and enjoyable. And I also saw people that were, for instance, the vast majority of folks were talking about dividing. So they said that they would divide by 3, or divide the number of robots by 3, divide it by 3, divide it by 3. What's in common with all these? Divide by 3. That people saw, to go from robots to paint, there is a divide by 3 thing going on, but that is not the only way of thinking about this. And so I saw other people much less one-third thing going on, that division and multiplication are very closely related. And so here, these folks are saying to go from 6 to 2, you multiply by 1/3. Okay, so what does this have to do with amazing math right here? Is that, again, math is so powerful, it can help you, like if you're able to, for instance, identify a divide by 3 thing or multiply by 1/3 relationship, you can create your robot painting factory so that it paints robots really quickly. And that's one thing that we do in this lesson. But we also want to make sure that students are aware of their own power. So to do that, we have that written response, and we show 3 other student responses when you submit your own. And that's had like a really curious effect on students. Lots of times in computer-based math, what happens is the students have their the room at all. But when they see other students' responses, they become aware of just how smart other students in the class are. They focus more on their own responses and take greater care in their own responses. I was in a class this last week. I saw students who had seen other students have answers to a problem that were different from their own, and they changed their answer to match those other kids' answer. And when they later learn from the teacher, no, they were correct. They're like, see, I told you we were smart, one student says to the other. I love these moments that are only possible in a curriculum, in a class that allows for those kinds of social connections. Here is a moment with Liz Clark Garvey, and I am promising myself and you all, I will get the captions right this time, that I think it is on that screen that you just saw. And watch how this teacher, in a way that gives me goosebumps just to think about it, helps student understand not just math power, but their own power, which equates to math feeling amazing. Here you folks are. Have a look. I'll be asking you at the end of this, like the last one, how do you see the teacher valuing math and valuing the students?
So thinking about that, each robot is 1/3 or needs 1/3 of a can of paint. You can use the idea of this unit rate. Right? Each robot needs 1/3 of a can of paint, so that if you have 6 of them, you have to multiply that by 1/3. If you have 15, you have to multiply that by 1/3, because each of them needs 1/3 of a can of paint. Yeah, Dylan?
So like, what I said was like, so basically, for example, if I had 10, I would have, if I had 10 robots, I would have, 30 robots, I would need 10 gallons. So I wasn't fully sure.
What do folks think? If you have 10 robots, do you need 30 gallons? So it's interesting because I could think about this in 2 different ways. I could use Gael's strategy, or I would say Zoli's strategy. If there's 30 robots, I think what Gael would ask, Gael, tell me if I'm right or wrong, how many 3s are in 30? Is that right? 10, right? I think Zoli might say each of these robots needs 0.333 gallons of paint. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by 1/3. Right? Each robot needs 1/3 of a gallon of paint. So I have 30 of them. I need 30 of the 1/3. So a new idea today is just thinking about how can we fill in values in this table by going across the table, as opposed to thinking about the equivalent ratios that we have been. Okay. So time goes quick. I'm going to ask that you take a moment and think about this lesson synthesis. It's a similar table. Just know that this one row was added in terms of this idea of unit rate here. and I want you to explain how you can determine unknown values in this table. And then you can use like values in the table to help you explain some of your thinking. You can make up, like Dylan, you can say, well, what if there's 30 robots? What if there's 100 robots? What if you have 5 gallons of paint? Okay, so I'm going to unpause you. I'm going to send everyone to the synthesis. Okay.
Okay, folks. Wow. Amazing work, Dan, with the captions. Yeah, give it up in the chat for Dan and his caption work here. How do you see the teacher valuing students and valuing math? Or just pick either one there. And just a moment, don't try to like capture all of it, but there's so much going on where the teacher values both the students and values math in ways where you often just see teachers valuing one or the other. She values students through their math even. I'm tuned into you folks. Feel free just to read what other teachers in the chat are saying and reflect on those. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, this is so great. Students as authors of ideas, a very powerful comment there. From Megan, Jacob also says something similar, names strategies based off of the kids, giving them power. Yeah, William also notices naming strategies for students, for instance. This is so helpful. Yeah. Cheris, I'm sorry if that's not how you pronounce your name, talks about speaking to them as fellow mathematicians, which is like in what kinds of classes do you see students seen as fellow mathematicians versus kind of subordinate mathematicians? Yeah, so you folks have talked a lot here about how she's valuing students. I think it's, we've seen classes where teachers really value the students and value the math much less. In some ways, because they value the students and don't know how to teach math or don't have curriculum that supports them in teaching math in ways that value students, they can shield students from math in some ways. Like I'm thinking about classes where teachers might tell students, look, I was not good at math and that's okay, I'm doing fine, look at me. That's a form of love of the student to try to validate them and protect them, but it's one that we know from research tends to transmit a feeling of math anxiety from teacher to student, or to diminish the amount of time even that math is being taught. This is what's just so incredible about teaching to me, is that there's no way to stop developing. Teaching as a job is so greedy for every kind of capacity you can bring. Any little bit of love you develop for your fellow human, any bit of math knowledge that you develop, teaching wants it. Teaching will use it greedily. So like let me see here. So I just want to name that she is not just contributing to positive feelings from students here. She's being very serious about the math. Like for instance, I'm talking about when she's like, hey, I need you to synthesize your learning here. Or when she very explicitly says, here's a new idea today that we have learned. For instance, this is her taking the math very seriously, her attention to being mathematically correct here in that table and drawing on the slide and being numerically precise with the repeating decimal bar. All of this is very mathematically serious. I think, like you folks, like many of you, my math knowledge is like relatively solid at middle school levels. Like I have a degree, a bachelor's in math. So for me, I think like some of you, we are more dazzled at the social side of this and how Liz has blended together the social and the mathematical here. Angie talks about the text role here, that the text role here is not to evaluate students, as it so often is with so much technology, but the technology here, it allows her to draw out student ideas. And I gotta say, like the assessment, like at my retirement party or whatever, my deathbed, how I want to be assessed as an educator is like, do students feel like they can contribute a half-formed idea in front of the class to the teacher? Like, it is such an amazing thing that she has created this environment where a teacher, Dylan is that kid's name, says, look, I got something I'm working on. Don't know if it's right. I'm kind of curious. You know, in classes where teachers are or students become convinced that they need to become, robots, students are very unlikely to offer up ideas that are half-formed, because it's like, well, I'm not a robot yet. Robots aren't uncertain. If there's anything that's true about robots, is that they are always very certain. So I just love, as an assessment of her skill as a teacher and as a developer of students, like a student felt like tossing that out to the crowd. Also, yeah, like some of you have noticed the part where she not only names, this is so wild to me, the part where she not only names, strategies after Gael and Zoli, she takes Dylan's question and just get on this level, right? She takes that question and she filters the student's question through Gael and Zoli and says like, okay, I'm thinking through this. I'm trying to think through the way Gael sees this and the way Zoli sees this. Like, how do you think Gael and Zoli are feeling in that moment about math, about themselves, and the power of both? There's students here who feel like, are they checked out? I don't know. Like, I never want to make an assumption about students and their engagement based on body language or anything else. But the student is obviously very tuned into like the screen that is like automatically rotating in the room. But I want to offer to you folks that even if students might be checked out of the math, they are highly checked in. They're possibly highly checked in to how the teacher is treating the students in the room and who is seen as mathematically smart. Is it just the teacher and mathematicians who have came before, or can other students like me, can I be mathematically smart here as well? Do I have power? Anyway, look, folks, this right here has been 2.5 minutes of one video, less than a minute of another. How great is that? Like, and what other jobs out there can, 3.5 minutes of video inspire, can provoke and inspire conversation about craft? If you watch me on a random 3.5 minutes of my day here at Amplify, you'll see me typing emails, and there's not a lot you can say about that. But I love to support teachers because the work is so rich, so sophisticated. The craft is amazing at its best here. So anyway, looking at the comments here, love all this thinking from you folks. I'm gonna end my part here and invite any questions you might have, if I can answer any. I just want to again name that those moments that you saw there, we should not be simple-minded about it and attribute it to any one thing, right? Like, if I were to say to you folks, hey, all you gotta do is get with the Desmos Amplify math curriculum, get your free trial, and students are good, I would be telling you a lie. I think that curriculum opens a particular door, that for lots of students, the door is shut by virtue of the curriculum only asking questions that emphasize a certain kind of smartness. And so you've got to have a curriculum that opens that door and says things like, write the instructions in words using language that is familiar to you, for instance. That opens the door, but it's not enough. As you folks know, that you've got to have also pedagogy that sees the open door and sees students on the other side of that door wondering, am I smart? Do I have to be a robot to be smart here in this class? And the teacher has pedagogy that welcomes those students in, not just socially, though that's important, but also mathematically, and says, hey, I see what you are doing in this curriculum, and it is powerful. I want to offer you, put some names on this. I want to grab 2 ideas that I see through my knowledge as being connected and help those 2 ideas talk to one another and develop something even more powerful than either one individually. It takes that curriculum, it takes pedagogy, it even takes beliefs that you folks who support teachers know what I'm talking about, beliefs about who can be smart, about what mathematics is. It's just, like I've long ago concluded that, I'm going to end my career as a math educator or a supporter of math educators not having figured it all out. Like, it is so rich and so complex and so deeply woven into the society and even history, this job. It's amazing. So thank you folks so much for being here. There's so many new friends in the chat who I've not met, hope to someday. So many old friends of mine that I'm just so grateful you folks would show up and hang. And I want to pass things back over to my colleague Shannon, who's going to share with you just a few closing. We'll moderate a Q&A and share a few ideas of how you might follow up with these ideas. Thank you, folks. Back to you, Shannon.
Thank you, Dan. That was amazing. Not to overuse our adjective for our series, but that really was amazing. And the proof of that is the fact that we don't even have that many questions at all. There's just a couple. I would love for you to just clarify, since you're much closer to the curriculum than I am. There was one that came through, which a few people have already kind of answered, but I want you to verify. At the top of the robot factory lesson, it has ESP. What does ESP stand for?
Yeah, we have our, thanks for the question there. Lee, we have all of our lessons are translated into Spanish, so students can ideally not be inhibited by any kind of language issues. If they speak Spanish, they can use the language that they are best able to communicate their ideas in, for one. I can handle a couple here also, Shannon. Lee also asked about, there's 112 people in this activity. Are there that many mathematicians in the anonymization function? And there are roughly, there could be that many. We might have to recycle some at some point. I'm not sure. We didn't build for classes that were quite this large. So anyway, great stuff. Brenda asked if it's K-12. And the answer is that we are building K-5. We currently have 6 through 8 in Algebra 1, and we are building the whole K through Algebra 2 curriculum right now as we speak. So thanks for the question, Brenda. I want to shout out to William Atwood, asked about 2 to 3. Do you ever have 2 to 3 students on one computer working together to explore? I'm really looking at minimizing the screens. And, you know, shout out to you. I think even certainly post virtual learning, the year of real serious COVID virtual learning, even without that, I think it's really wise to think about like how much screens should be in a student's life versus other kinds of media. And I was in Watsonville, California this last week, observing like 6 teachers, and was just so amazed by how the classes were multimedia classes in the purest sense of that word, in that they had multiple forms of media, not just digital media, but that the computers served conversations, which then fed into notes, for instance, and things on the whiteboard. Teachers were drawing on the screen, as you saw Liz Clark Garvey do, for instance. So for me, when I do a demo class, I generally will have 2 students to 1 device so that they might have conversations themselves. That opens up some other issues around some facilitation challenges around how do you make sure both kinds of both students are working and one is not completely taking over, but that's a matter of classroom norms, just about everything. In math class. I see a question about NCTM from Shawnee. Perhaps, and I will be at NCTM this fall in DC. Hope to see you there. Let's see here. Other kinds of questions. They're coming in. Karen asked about building thinking classrooms. So hot right now. And I've seen teachers that will have their students take a question like this, like the robot question, and then work it out on a whiteboard at the back of or on the wall of the room, and then have students walk around and compare written instructions. So there's a lot of ways that the two can integrate. I think that building thinking classrooms especially works very well on supplemental large problems that might happen at the end of a unit, for instance, and we are trying to build a core experience. That often, to William's question again, that will include problems that are like card sorts. It'll include questions on paper. Our curriculum has quite a lot of print resources. One teacher at Watsonville said that the print lessons were some of their students' favorites. So we're very thoughtful about which lessons get the print treatment and which ones get the digital treatment. So anyway, those kinds of lessons don't fit as well on the back of the room on a wall whiteboard. They involve paper and moving things around. But otherwise, there's a lot of commonalities here. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Lily asked about that too. Let's see. Love getting a 2 for 1 on that. Nice. Let's see here. Lee Mitchell asked about high school teachers how to convince them about any of this. And I would just say, go to teacher.desmos.com and type in some keywords into the search bar, and you'll get some activities that will help illustrate what we're about here. I would say marble slides is a very popular first place to start. Let's see here. Anything else? Let's see. Is there any research that supports students using technology for learning, engagement, a shift in learning styles? I will say that we just completed our first efficacy study of our curriculum through grades 6 through 8, and we saw significant differences among schools that used our curriculum versus schools that used other curricula, even after we controlled for things like demographics and socioeconomic status. So that's pretty exciting. I would point to that. And as with anything, computers, any media, any technology, whether that's paper or digital or whiteboards, that none of that actually changes student learning on its own. It requires curriculum and pedagogy as well. In the same way that I cannot point to any research that says that paper causes students to learn, because it really is what's on the paper, and it's about what happens through the computer, much more than the actual media itself. Let's see here. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Mark. Woo. Mark with the college coffee shop question. Me and Mark and whoever else getting together at Common Grounds after the session, just really stroking our goatees and grabbing our chins like that and thinking hard. Question is, do you find mathematical pedagogical beliefs precede productive pedagogy, or does the productive pedagogy impact beliefs if you had to choose? Smiley face. And I think I first heard the quote from Rochelle Gutierrez. I love it. I think it's an older quote perhaps, which is that that actions change belief much more than we believe our way into new actions. That we could just you and me, we could just get in a room and talk about how much we think that student learning is powerful, not just, that students are powerful, not just math is powerful. We could just talk about that and convince ourselves to believe it. But it really is much more enduring when we just say, okay, I'm going to step out in faith and I'm going to offer students a moment to actually share what they think. And I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to look for the most powerful ideas there. Those ideas might be at first ideas that are most like my own. But over time, what that's done for me personally, this is my own personal journey, is that I have found more and more value in student responses that I might have been scared of as a new teacher. Oh, whoa, I don't know what to do with this right here. This does not seem very smart. Now at this point, because of those actions changing my beliefs, I see those and I'm much more interested and see much more value in student responses than I used to. So great question. What's up, Chris Shore? Okay. Let's see here. Did we do it? How long will it take to finish the high school curriculum? Great question. I'll toss to Shannon and folks who might know. Yeah.
And I know they're working on it now, and I know that things will be ready hopefully by the next school year, 2024 school year, but I do not want to make any promises. So just keep an eye on your inboxes. I'm sure we will spam all of you when we know the answer.
Shannon's promised. Next year, folks. Next year.
We'll let everybody know. And with that, Dan, you did an amazing job. I just wanted to give people more resources before we close out today. I know we're almost at time. This was a great session. I appreciate everyone taking the time out of your busy days. I know as educators, your time is more valuable than so many people. You're busier than ever. So I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. If you want to hear more from Dan, the new season of Math Teacher Lounge podcast is dropping so soon. I believe this week or next week, it is coming, the first episode of the new season. So season 5, let's go. Let's everyone join that and make sure you listen in. We'll be talking about math anxiety, what causes it, how we can prevent it, and kind of diving into that topic this season. It's going to be very exciting. If you want to find more ways to make math amazing, you can request a free trial today to Desmos Math 681 full year curriculum. You can also see the study that Dan was talking about today in this link right here. Brand new efficacy study showing how it improves student outcomes. And then if you want even more sessions from us, you can go to our math webinar page and go to Desmos Math 68 info session, go to office hours. You can see more Desmos Classroom activities and how to get started. So I really, really hope that you all take some time to browse some of these things. And thank you again so very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Dan. You were incredible. Bye, everyone. Thank you.